answer questions for both sides. It'll work. And I don't know how you got, I guess if you're the first person to come in on Clubhouse, you automatically get to ask a question. So you're the first guy in. What's up? What are you thinking about? Got it. So Ian's a friend who's been on Bulletproof Radio, and he's working on some peptides and some other stuff like that. Got any, ask me anything, things like that, things that are top of mind for you, or did they just toss you in here? All right, favorite product or hack that I found as of late. Guys asking on Instagram, it's AMA with Dave Asprey is the name of the room in Clubhouse. If you go to my thing on Clubhouse, it'll probably show that I'm live. So latest hack I'm working on here, I've been working a lot on just meal timing, and something that's really cool. For the past probably 5 or 6 days now, I've been eating one meal a day at 2 p.m. instead of what I would normally do, which is closer to like a 5-ish usually. And I'm noticing better blood sugar regulation, better sleep, and less hunger, which is completely ridiculous. And this goes back to mitochondrial timing that says, we should actually have, our most food when algae was available in the ocean 2 billion years ago when the sun's overhead. So the ideal nutrient timing window to signal your circadian timing would be in there. Strangely enough, my wife's doing it too. You're just not hungry at dinner, and then you're not hungry at bedtime, and you're not hungry at breakfast, and all of a sudden it's like eating just takes up 1/3 or 2/3 less time. So that's a really cool thing. Everyone can do it. It's free. All right. Well, I answered that one for you. And I've got Doug here on Clubhouse, who is, everyone's asking on Instagram. If you go to Clubhouse, just search for Dave, or actually I'm Asprey, just at Asprey on Clubhouse. And that'll come, and that'll let you find me. And then it should show my live room when you go to my profile there. But on Clubhouse, just follow me at Asprey. And Doug is coming on in Clubhouse as well, who's saying, Doug was just on the podcast. I don't think our interview's even up. What's up, Doug? You have to unmute yourself. I bet if I put this thing on speakerphone, I bet you guys can hear then. That's going to be even better. All right, I'm going to play around with this. Doug, you got to unmute yourself so I can hear you. Otherwise, I'm going to pass this on to someone else. All right, Doug's not listening. This is so annoying. Let's see if this works.
Ask me.
He's back.
Oh, great. So it was me. Great. All right. Here you go. So everyone on Instagram's all there. Now I'm going to put these phones right next to each other, and I've got it on speaker. So I think when you guys talk, everyone on Instagram's going to be able to hear you. It's going to be awesome. All right. So, Doug, say something.
Dave, what's going on?
There it works.
Good to see you again.
All right, now everyone can hear you guys too. All right, good to see you again. So guys, I just interviewed Doug. So Doug, what's up? What do you have? His interview isn't even live on Bulletproof Radio yet. What's going on?
Nothing. I just wanted to come up and say hello, and then I guess a question I had for you is like, what is in all your research on fasting, what is one simple tip that just anybody in the audience could take if they want to get started on fasting, say tomorrow or on Thursday, that could be as simple as possible for them?
Well, look at where a fast starts. And the way it starts is it's after you finish dinner. If you look at this, have dinner a little bit early, like finish by 5 or 6. And when you do that, what's going to happen is you're going to get maybe 4 or 5 hours of fasting before bed. Then you're going to sleep for maybe 8 hours. You got 12 hours of fasting. That's the beginning of an intermittent fast. You're not going to eat breakfast or put sugar in your coffee, hopefully at 6 a.m. So then wait a little while. And all of a sudden, if you just go till 10 a.m., you just did a 14 or 16 hour intermittent fast. It's not that hard. So it's literally delaying breakfast even by a couple hours and not having those things that you eat after dinner. That's all you got to do. Just stop. When the sun goes down, you stop eating, and then wait a while when you wake up. It's really easy to do. So that's probably the simplest thing. No money, no nothing. There's 3 hacks in Fast This Way, Doug, that we talked a little bit about on the show. But one of them is black coffee. The other one is bulletproof coffee. The other one is prebiotic fiber. You guys can have those 3 things during a fast. You maintain autophagy, your mTOR stays low, your insulin stays low. You get the metabolic benefits, but you're not distracted, which makes it really hard to do that.
Well said. Thank you. Awesome.
All right, you got it, man. All right. And I'm seeing a bunch of questions here on Instagram as well. All right, people are like commenting on what I said, which is awesome. Let's have Junaid come on. Junaid, I also just recorded with you and it hasn't gone live yet. Junaid runs the Farmer's Juice. We did Instagram Live. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen that. Regenerative agriculture, small farmers supporting affordable, non-kale, keto-friendly, non-blood sugar raising green juices for like less than $6 a piece, shelf stay or refrigerator stable for 30 days. So I've been advising him for a couple of years on trying to make juice that didn't suck, that actually worked. So there's some good stuff there. Junaid, welcome, man. You gotta unmute yourself though.
Hey, Dave. Hey, thanks for having me. My name is Junaid. I'm a pharmacist and a general partner at Space VC.
Oh, you're not the Junaid I thought you were. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
It only shows me your first name, and you look like my friend Junaid. All right, never mind. So tell me what you're.
Yeah, I guess you have two friends. Okay, that's cool. That's rare, but that's awesome, Dave. So we're a VC firm focused on space technology and human longevity, and I've followed your journey since 2015, Dave, and I've had a great time, great ride, and this whole time, I've been trying to simplify all the stuff that I've learned from you, and I think the latest biohack box that's coming my way, and I'm really waiting for it. I can't wait to crack open that Spermidine Life.
Nice.
And yeah, I want to know how you've integrated that into your daily routine.
Oh.
I think that can take over a lot of different things, and I think it's a fantastic supplement. Can you tell me a little about what you're doing with it?
I love this question so much. All right, so the box you're talking about, for about 8 years, people who are fans, you go to ig-dave-asprey.com and you pay $100 a quarter, and I send you a box that's always worth at least $200 full of the latest biohacking stuff I'm working on. So I work a deal for you. You save money. You don't know what you're going to get. But it's always going to be good. It's vetted by me personally. So I have a lot of fun with this box. It's like for kind of supporters and just people who want to save some money and just be surprised. In this box that just came out, there's a bottle of Spermidine Life. And I wrote about spermidine in Superhuman, my anti-aging book. And this is this really exciting anti-aging compound. It's a fasting mimetic. It causes the body to act as if you're fasted, even if you eat. It's gut healing, and it's called a biogenic amine that's actually good for you. But there was no way to buy it. The only thing that you could do when I wrote Superhuman is you could buy weirdly labeled probiotics from Japan that weren't approved for use here and kind of get them sent. And then you could take those and you make some spermidine. But studies show spermidine extends maximum lifespan in animals and probably does it in people. So I did an episode maybe 2-3 months ago on Bulletproof Radio where I interviewed a clinician who's using Spermidine Life, which is the first and very well clinically studied supplement where you can actually take spermidine. So based on what she says, for most of her patients who are dealing with chronic stuff, she gives them a couple pills a day. So I do 4 because I'm planning to live to 180. So that seems like it would make great sense. But everyone who's in the box got that, which is really cool. And I'm sure there's some links. Someone from my team will probably post a link to save you guys some money on spermidine. If you're on Instagram, I can't post links on Clubhouse. But spermidine, I think, is one of those really promising anti-aging supplements that you'll probably want to be taking for a very long period of time. And if you guys, ig-dave-asprey.com, that has info about spermidine on it. I do know because that's on the list of the stuff that's in the new box. All right. Christy, you got a question?
Hey, I just thought to say hi. And it's been a while. When did I last see you in
I think it was at Jason Gaynor's Mastermind Talks the last time we hung out in person, probably. This is Christy Harold. When
we got to eating dinner, and you had the mitt full of fun supplements that I was
big.
What are you doing?
I thought you were going to throw up in your mouth. You saw me take like 70
fun.
Supplements in a swallow.
I have a question for you. So from someone who, I think you picked up on the fact that I have never done any biohacking at all in my life, I am curious about the benefits of intermittent fasting. like, and in terms of, can that help to, I've just been doing with all the MMTers, I've just done the 75 hard challenge. We're about 5 days from being done and have shed about 10 pounds, feel amazing, super fit, want to be able to keep it off. And I guess I'm just kind of curious if intermittent fasting is something that can help with that.
Intermittent fasting totally helps with that. By the way, guys, the code Dave25 for Spermidine Life, one of my team members just texted me. So if you guys want to save some money on Spermidine, you want to try it, didn't think we were going to talk about it, that's in answer to Junaid's question, just to follow up. Promise I get that for you. It's spermidinelife.us, I think is the website. So, Christy, what intermittent fasting does, it gives you more energy the morning you do it. And this is what's missing. Most people haven't tried intermittent fasting. Like, it would be terrible. I'd be hungry. I'd be hangry. I'd be hypoglycemic. And if you have just water, maybe. But the time and energy and effort you put into breakfast goes away. And then all the energy that would have gone into digesting food and causing your insulin to go up and down and all that, it just goes into thinking and into repairing the body. So most people who intermittent fast actually experience more energy and more focus, not less. And to get going, if you've never done it before, black coffee, bulletproof coffee, and or prebiotic fiber all suppress hunger. So you just stop thinking about food. You know, someone brings the donuts in, and instead of going, oh, donut, you just don't care because you're kind of in the zone. So it's really powerful for mental focus, entrepreneurs, just getting stuff done. How long is it that to get the most benefit? It depends on how stressed and how tired you are. So at least 12 hours is the very minimum. A lot of times people people do a 14 or a 16 or an 18-hour fast. I recommend that you start every other day if you've never done it before and do it for a week or two. And if you go to fastthisway.com, there's a free fasting training, like a 2-week course where I'll teach you how to do it. I'm not trying to sell anything. I just want people to know what's in the book, even if they don't read the book. 40,000 people have done the fasting challenge and training with me so far. And it's been very popular. So there's a community like that. But studies in women specifically show minimum Monday, Wednesday, Friday, do a 14 or a 16-hour fast to get started. And once you're like really comfortable with that, then you're like, you know what? I've got this. I'll do 14 or 16 most days. And some days you'll go 18. And one day you'll go, you know what? I just don't need lunch. I'm going to wait till dinner. And like, oh my God, I just went 23 hours without eating. I can't believe that. But it wasn't like you ever missed the food. And that's what I've been doing. For like the past week. I've been eating once a day at 2 p.m. and I'm good to go. It's ridiculous how not hungry I am.
Cool. All right. Good to chat, buddy. Nice to hear your voice and sort of see your face.
Good to see you, Christy.
Hey, Dave.
Yep.
Hey, I've got a clubhouse room called Let's Talk Longevity with my partner Laura down there in the audience.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you sometime if it's possible.
Totally. I'm always.
Yeah. How can I reach out?
Let's see. Hit me up on a DM on Instagram is probably the best way to do it.
DM on what?
On Instagram.
You got it. Thanks, Dave.
You got it. All right, I added a few more people here on Clubhouse. By the way, guys, if you're on Instagram, you're not following me on Clubhouse, you should get a Clubhouse account if you get an invite. It's pretty fun. It's different than the video thing we're doing here. And I'm going to answer a question for people on Clubhouse before I go to the next person asking a question, because it's a really good one. From Biles Mark. I can't even say your name. Sorry, Mark. Super curious what supplements are okay with Bulletproof Coffee or with fasting in the morning. There's a chapter in Fast This Way on supplements for fasting. The things that are really most interesting, activated charcoal absorbs gut toxins. When you're not eating, your gut bacteria get stressed. They make lipopolysaccharide, which causes hunger and brain fog. Activated charcoal sticks to lipopolysaccharide. So that's a really good one. You can take protein digesting enzymes. I read about Masszymes, and I'm sure someone from my team will post a link there. That's from a company called Bioptimizers. And Masszymes is a protein degrading set of enzymes. When there's nothing in your stomach for that protein digesting stuff to break down, it'll actually break down extra protein like scar tissue or fibrinogen in your blood, which is a really cool thing you can do as well. Any fat soluble supplement works very well with Bulletproof Coffee as well. All right, let's go to Luke. What's up, man, here on Clubhouse?
Hey, Dave. Thanks for taking these questions today. My question is regarding weight training. I do some competitive powerlifting and have trained this way for a long time. I know weight training can affect mTOR, so I'm wondering, how can you gain strength while still doing what you can to improve longevity, or is there somewhere you can strike a balance? And then is there any difference between heavy neural training, which, more so stimulates your strength and the nervous system, versus training for muscular gains?
Oh, that's a great question. All right. Everyone needs to know about mTOR because it's the compound that causes growth in the body. Now, chronic unrestrained growth is not a good thing, and that actually lowers life, and that's cancer and things like that. So mTOR is a major signal for this. mTOR is like a spring. What you want to do is you want to compress it. So if you're eating less than 15 grams of protein a day, you haven't stimulated mTOR. And it doesn't mean you're going to lose muscle, but it means you're not going to be putting muscle on. But it also means that the body then is doing a self-cleansing cycle instead of a building cycle. So if you're always in build mode but never in maintenance mode, it doesn't work. So the way you work with mTOR is you smash it down, and then it comes surging forth. And there's 3 things that we know in different studies that suppress mTOR. And I wrote about this first in 2014 in the Bulletproof Diet, but there's more in Fast This Way about it. So we know that fasting pushes mTOR down. We know that black coffee or bulletproof coffee pushes mTOR down. And we know that exercise pushes mTOR down. So when mTOR is all the way down, then you do your exercise, which is going to be that final way to push it down. And right after you exercise, within 30 minutes, you eat a meal that contains protein and carbs and fat for maximum muscle gain. You can have less carbs if you're doing like a keto cycle, but you want to really hit the protein heavy. And the reason is that number 1, protein raises mTOR, and carbs, number 2, raise mTOR. But if you do that within a half hour of your exercise, you avoid a 48-hour cortisol spike, which is one of those catabolic hormones that causes things to break down. So basically, what I'm saying in lots of science jargon is lift at the end of your fast, then eat very soon after you lift, and you get the most gain when you have the most fuel present. Bonus points if you take some enzymes with it so you digest the meat faster and better. And then you can actually have a big mTOR spike right when you want to put muscle on. And then the next day when you're intermittent fasting again, your mTOR will be low, but when you eat, it's going to go back up. Make sense?
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
You got it. All right. And people on Instagram, I'm sorry, my friends, you have to have an iPhone. I don't run Clubhouse. I just have an app on there. It's actually a little bit nicer because it's voice only. If I take random callers on Instagram, I've had too many occasions of seeing pieces of anatomy that I can't unsee, and neither can my followers. So then you can only let people you know on, but on Clubhouse, it's a little bit less of an issue. So let's move on to Matt. What do you have to say, Matt?
Hey, Dave. Appreciate the time and your time tonight. Big fan of your work. I actually had another question, but there's something you said when you were talking to Junaid about, your other friend Junaid, about the juices
yeah.
that actually spurred a different question. You mentioned the juices don't have kale in them. Is there a reason that you're focused on not kale?
Yeah, kale's gross, man. I mean, that should be enough in and of itself. No, here's what's going on with kale. This is something that has been a part of my work for 10 years now, since like early blog posts. There's a compound that plants use to keep animals from eating them called oxalic acid. And what oxalic acid does is it goes into the body and it finds calcium, which is floating around in your blood, and it forms tiny microcrystals that then get stuck in your kidneys for kidney stones, in your joints for gout. It can cause brain inflammation. It can cause vulvodynia, a painful condition in women where the crystals form in the vulva. And a lot of people with gout and kidney stones now are getting it because they're eating their 2 damn kale salads a day and kale smoothies. Kale is a major source of this. I was a raw vegan for quite a while and actually had this happen to me, except for the vulvodynia. Fortunately, I'm immune to that. And what happens there is it's just not good for you, especially over time, especially juice, because it hits you really fast. Some people metabolize some oxalic acid, but maximizing it with kale is just not a smart strategy. So I taught people, even back when I was on the Joe Rogan show 3 times, I'm like, Joe, you're doing kale smoothies. You got to back off, man. If you're going to do it, you need to use dino kale, not leafy kale, because it's lower. Boil it with baking soda or calcium, dump the water, and eat the green slime that's left if you really must have your kale, or you could just eat a vegetable that's not as high in that. And then Joe didn't do it, but 6 years later, he was on and said he had to quit drinking kale because of the oxalic acid. So it took him a while to get it, but Mike Tyson went on and was like, killer kale, I would never touch kale. I'm like, you go, Mike. In fact, he was working with Terry Cochran, who's also one of the people who's saying, look, kale's not good. Kale also has thallium in it. It is the one plant that gets thallium and it chelates it more than any other. Thallium is known as the poisoner's poison. It's a toxic heavy metal 1,000 times worse than lead. So when we pulled lead out of our gasoline, guess what we replaced it with? Yeah, thallium. So there's that. That's why I'm against kale. Plus, it's gross. Just that should be enough.
That's good to know. Appreciate it. My wife and I have it in moderation, but I think that's going to go to zero after hearing you talk to that. Appreciate your time.
You got it. And if you go to it's thefarmersjuice.com/Dave, they'll save you $5 if you guys want to try the farmer's juice, even though it was the wrong Junaid. Sorry, Junaid. I had you guys mixed up. I got a question from Slater Tank on Instagram. Says, Volter Longo is kind of the godfather of fasting. Says, gallstones are a concern with longer fasts. One of the things you want to do is stimulate bile. And people are like, well, stimulate bile? That's gross. What are you talking about here? But what's happening is we have... bile is a major detox pathway for us. We excrete a lot of things in our bile. And if you have less bile, you can get gallstones. So on a longer fast, you stop stimulating bile. If you had small amounts of fat during a fast, you wouldn't stimulate bile. So I'm a fan of doing at least a little bit of grass-fed butter, even if it's just a half a teaspoon in water, for a variety of reasons, including stimulating gallbladder flow. So to the guy on Instagram who asked that question, I cover bile production in the Bulletproof Diet. It's probably my best book that talks about that stuff. All right, let's take something from I think Yenvi.
Hi, Dave. Big fan of the information you've been putting out. Very excited to be on this panel with you and ask this question. Actually, I think I saw a Instagram post of you posting one of our tests. I was in longevity medicine and metabolic diagnostics, and
Sweet.
And you did one of our telomere testing. And so I saw a post and I was so excited to see our logo on there. But anyways, you actually inspired my business partner and I, Jessica, on starting a podcast called The Art of Becoming Wonder Women, which is biohacking for females. It's a community for females interested in biohacking. And, there's a lot of talks, especially with your new book on fasting, is, what is the most important information that you would advise females when it comes to ketogenic diet and also fasting, because of our hormones and everything relating. There's different ways to fast and to eat and have a fatty diet and whatnot. So what's the most important information you would suggest regarding whether it's alternating the two or doing it during the female cycle or what?
Okay. There's only about a third of studies on fasting recognize the difference between men and women. So I went through, and there's a chapter in Fast This Way that specifically looks at the studies for women. And women are not little men, to be perfectly honest. And so many times people say that. What you'll find both with keto and with fasting for men and women is that there is a wall. And I call this the fasting trap or the keto trap. And it's also the vegan trap. It's that if something is good, therefore as humans, we must do more of it. So when I was a raw vegan and it stopped working and I was getting the problems from kale and the other well-known issues with a vegan diet, I was like, that means I'm not vegan enough. Like, how do I double down? Like, I'll eat a bigger salad, and it took me a while to figure out that I was kind of breaking my biology with that. What happens with keto, if it's unending keto and you don't follow the cycling strategy that has been that's part of the Bulletproof Diet, it's what I've been recommending forever, but it seems like sometimes people are like, well, keto good, unending keto better. But the reality is that women who over fast or over keto, after about 4 to 6 weeks, the first thing they see is their sleep cycle goes down. They don't sleep as well. You can track that with like an Oura Ring. You can track it with my favorite app is called Sleep Space. I'm an investor and advisor, and it's clinically validated stuff. So it's a very accurate way to do it. But what you end up with is, or you wake up and you feel hungover, like I didn't sleep very well. And if you keep going, or you even double down, I'll fast even longer because my sleep isn't good. Then you start realizing, well, this was like the worst month in a while for my monthly cycle. Like I had PMS, my cycle was off, and something doesn't feel right. And then you start getting hair thinning after that. Now with guys, it takes usually close to like 6 to even 12 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. So another couple weeks longer. Sleep quality goes away. You wake up without a kickstand, and then you get hair thinning, right? So the difference is timing. And with women in the chapter, it's likely that if you're having your period, you probably want to do a shorter fast, and it's okay to just skip a fast, just have a protein and fat breakfast. Some women do very well fasting during their period, but the point is that fasting the same way every day for men and women doesn't work. It's based on how stressed are you biologically, how much sleep did you get last night, what else is going on in your life, did you do a heavy lift? So some days a shorter fast is better, some days a longer fast is better. And in all of history, we never would have said, oh, you have to eat whether you're hungry or not. If you're not hungry, you wouldn't eat. It's kind of like the idea of going to the gas station. Like I always go to the gas station Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and fill up. And I always put in 10 gallons. Like your tank wasn't empty, but you do it anyway. And fasting all the time when it's too much is just the same idea. So the idea is after you've learned what hunger is versus what cravings are, which is what intermittent fasting teaches you, then you're going, I was going to do a 16-hour fast today, but man, like my body wants food. And then you give yourself food as an act of kindness, not as a failure of fasting. And that works so very well. Women do usually have to mix up their fasting a little bit more based on their time of the month, but not always. And we're all individuals.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Jen, what's up?
What's up, Dave? I'm so excited about this. Okay, so this goes along with post-workout nutrition. So I work out in the morning. I lift really heavy. I'm trying to build muscle. And, I'm a pretty small girl, but I'm trying to build muscle. I'm lifting really heavy in the morning. And on the days that I lift, I feel like I need to eat right away. So I can't do a fast. Do you recommend just not fasting on those days that I'm training, which is probably 5 days a week? And I've been having like a protein shake with some carbs and protein right after, and then eating lunch at noon, or is it better to just do the workout and fast, even though it's really hard to do? And have my first meal at noon.
Are you lifting heavy 5 times a week?
Yeah, should I not be?
Yeah, there's a name for what you're doing. It's called overtraining. Unless you're getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep and eating like crazy and all, you probably shouldn't do that more than 3 times a week. The other day, do maybe high intensity cardio or some more yoga stretching, but you're not giving yourself time to recover from the cortisol spike of the exercise and to rebuild the muscle. So you'll actually find you put muscle on more if you do it a little bit less. And you can still move to feel good, but you just don't want to be really stressing a major muscle group. So if you're doing legs on day one and chest and arms on the next day, you're still working on major muscle groups and you're not going to get the hormonal recovery that you want to get. You definitely want to eat right after your workouts, especially with frequent workouts like that, but you're still allowed to fast. With that schedule though, what you would do is you say, all right, my last meal of the day was at 3, right? And then you'll find it doesn't take very much if you eat the right food at 3, where you're not hungry, even if you're with other people having dinner, and then you still got in a 14-hour fast or something until you go the next morning, you finish your workout fasted and you do it. I think you'll actually see more gains if you do that. I've talked to a lot of people who are, looking at a physique and putting on muscle and things like that, and they're overtraining. And you're talking to a guy who went to the gym 6 days a week, an hour and a half a day for 18 months straight in an effort to lose the 300 or to lose 100 pounds of extra fat I was carrying. I never could lose the weight on that regimen because of overtraining, right? So you may be surprised at the results.
Thank you for that. I think that's just what I needed to hear. Okay,
awesome.
Thanks, Dave.
I hope it's really helpful for you.
No, it definitely is. I'll let you know.
Sweet. I'm going to add a couple more people who are on Clubhouse and answer a question from Instagram. I saw someone said Tudka. Now, this is an unknown biohacking compound. We're talking about bioflow and detox. If you're looking at the things that you'd have in Asia, traditionally you would eat a bear gallbladder. And the reason you'd eat that is there's a rare fat in there and there's a compound called Tudka. So you don't have to kill bears in order to get that. And TUDCA is the name of the compound. If you're dealing with gallstones, it's probably a really good idea. I use it on occasion. Because of what it does for bioflow. So that was a really cool esoteric biohack. Someone mentioned just a question mark on Instagram, and I thought I'd bring that up in the context of increasing bioflow. That is an anti-aging ancient Chinese strategy, which is really cool. All right, let's move on to, let's see, Laura, you're next.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for bringing me up here. Just to give you some context to my question, I'm a bioengineering student at Stanford.
Sweet.
And currently studying the use of like wearable sensors to look at your physiology and then also your biomechanics as like biomarkers of performance, rehab, and
you should come work for me at Upgrade Labs. I want to. You're studying the right stuff. I want your resume.
Thank you. My question is, so given some of that context, I wanted to know what you think like the next big thing that you would like to see researchers researching in that area would be.
Right now, there's a huge gap in the lowest hanging fruit of all, which is eye tracking. And if you look at what your Xbox camera can do right now in your house, even what your webcam could do, you can diagnose early onset Alzheimer's, MS, Parkinson's, and probably a lot of other neurological stuff just by looking how eyes track. There's an epidemic of people whose eyes don't team effectively. I was one of those. I had to do 3 months of this really intense, horrible eye training therapy where I taught my eyes to actually work together as a team, which lowers brain stress phenomenally. But I was just like knocked out for 6 hours every time I do an hour of vision exercises. All of that can be seen by technology we have today. It's just a matter of machine learning, image analysis, and then mapping it back to EEG or neurofeedback or other things like that. Another thing that's very interesting is Wobble Boards. I bought an old Nintendo Wii. They had a tilt board, and they're hackable, but I have these ideas I'm going to do it. Then I realized that I'm a CEO of multiple companies and a podcast and author. I never have time to get out a soldering iron, so I never did it. But if you get a cheap wobble board, which is where you stand on something, healthy people, when we're standing, we move in a cone shape like this. You just can't see it, but it's one. A healthy person has an even tight cone. An unhealthy person has a misshapen wobbly thing. And that means you have a movement problem. So literally, how do your eyes move and how do you stand still? And if you can get that data, there is 3 startups worth of information there that no one's monetized yet. And there's so much rich medical information, and it's free, and it's right there, and it's using mostly existing hardware.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that answer. I think it's super interesting that you bring up eye tracking because that really is one of the things that they haven't really figured out how to make in like a wearable form factor yet. Like you have VR goggles that can do some eye tracking, but there's nothing that's like not something that you have to like wear on your face. And then additionally, there is some research currently in the area that you're talking about with the Wobble Board, where instead of using like a Wobble Board, they're using something called a force plate, which is more or less the same thing. Yeah. And they've adapted those algorithms to be able to be used essentially from a chest-based sensor now. So you can get at some of that just from looking at those sensors. But thank you so much for answering my question.
You're most welcome. Thanks for doing work. I'm so encouraged to see. I mean, you're at Stanford, and back in the early days of Quantified Self, I had the poster from 2011 when I first introduced this idea of biohacking. I'm like, guys, you're kind of a bunch of stamp collectors. Like, look, I have all this data. And like, track what you hack. The data is only useful if you're going to do something with it. And now you fast forward 10 years and you're studying this stuff at Stanford and figuring out kind of how to crack the code of being human. I'm inspired. I love it that you're doing that. It's so cool.
Thank you so much.
Ethan, what's up?
Hey, Dave. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it was unmuted when I joined the call, so I got a little excited there earlier.
I was a little embarrassed by what you were saying. No, I'm kidding. It's all good. It's Clubhouse.
Yeah, I've read so many of your books and everything, so I'm really excited to get the opportunity to speak with you.
Well, thank you for reading. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I am a student at Georgetown University, and I'm only 19 years old, but I've read a lot about the things that you do, and I love everything. So I was wondering, I just had 2 small questions. What are your thoughts about fasting this young?
You're right at the age where I think it's a good idea. When you're still kind of in growth mode, which is really up to about 18, you can do a shorter intermittent fast. If you don't want breakfast, don't have breakfast. But I wouldn't do longer ones regularly. You want to do an occasional 24-hour, it's probably good for you. but your prefrontal cortex is still forming, and it's going to continue baking until you're about 25. And this is why until you're about 25, car companies don't want to rent you a car, because some of your decision-making stuff just still isn't on there. And there's nothing wrong with you. It's just a normal stage of adult development. But fasting, at least intermittent fasting, increases something called BDNF, brain-derived nootropic factor, which is still relatively high for you. So having a little bit of extra versions there could be really good. So what I think you'll find is, for not developing diabetes, not being 300 pounds in your early 20s like I was, intermittent fasting is a good idea to incorporate. I get a little scared when I see 16-year-olds say, I'm going to intermittent fast every day for the rest of my life. That's over fasting and probably not advisable. But at 19, 20, 21, doing it a few days a week and doing it so you feel more energy, not less. So you're not, facing hunger, I'm just going to ignore the hunger and just lean into it. You're like, you know what? I actually did it so I wasn't hungry. And as long as you're doing it that way, I think it's going to give you lifelong metabolic benefits.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then my second question was, I know kind of adapting to this online environment has been hard for a lot of people. So do you have any tips on just kind of optimizing overall focus and just trying to learn better in an online environment?
Wow, that is such a killer question. One of the big things goes back to what I was talking about with Laura about eye tracking. If you take a break every 15 minutes, like you guys might see me sometimes do this, you can't see it because you're on Clubhouse, on Instagram. That's what I'm looking at outside. I'm looking at Salt Spring Island. I'm looking at trees. And if you're indoors where you can't do it, have a picture across the room of trees. The other thing I do is my monitor is 5 feet away from my desk. I have a 40 or 45 inch big screen TV that I put way back there. And then I have my other monitor that's close in. So for you to stay focused, your eyes need to be close, far, close, far. If you laser vision in, you actually are going to get nearsighted. But also, it's actually stressful for the visual processing system, and it takes more energy in the brain. So that's a really powerful hack that people don't talk about enough. It's just like getting eye rest. There's another exercise you can do that comes from a book called Yoga for Your Eyes, and it's called eye cupping. And it's something I did in my vision therapy. So you rub your hands like this, which is what a Qigong master would do as well. And then you make like a cup and you put it, I'm rubbing them just up and down for people who can't see me. Then you put it over each eye, like an eye cup, where you're not touching your eyeball, your eyelid, but it's completely dark. And then you just open your eyes and you take 3 breaths. And it totally relaxes your brain and your eyes, and it lets you re-engage with what you're studying. I think it's critically important to do it. The other thing that's really useful, and you'll hate me for saying this, but I also hate this. I'm probably the only guy who's 48 who had my own computer when I was 8 years old. I had a computer before like Microsoft was out and about, I think. It was an operating system called CPM. So I like to type. Here's what I do. I write. I get out pieces of paper and I write. You will learn better if you take a pen and you draw a picture or you write the key points of what you're learning online. And it just works better. I couldn't tell you all the reasons. There's lots of different people, lots of different theories, but writing stuff down, not everything, but just the most important stuff, drawing a little mind map, it totally changes things. And then I got to do a shout out to my dear friend, Jim Quick. If you haven't taken his speed reading courses or any of his courses on learning faster, you should be able to read twice as fast as you probably do today. I listen to everything I listen to on 1.5x at least. You can do that as well. And so you can accelerate what gets in there. And when you first turn up the speed of something, whether it's reading or listening, it takes the brain a little while to become adjusted to higher bandwidth. But I'm to the point now where you guys are going to laugh at me. Okay, I have a top 100 podcast, couple 100 million downloads. I don't really listen to podcasts almost ever. And it's because I can read 10 times faster than I can listen. So like I'd rather read a paper from PubMed or read the transcript of a podcast because I can get it in faster. So to get your information processing bandwidth up, there's a nootropic called Anaracetam, Aniracetam. It increases memory I/O and it's stress reducing. I've been a fan of this for 20 years. It's the reason it's a big deal in biohacking circles, even though it's kind of a gray zone thing. It's been around for 50 or something years, but it's not FDA listed. So it's not illegal, but it's not approved either. Anaracetam is, I think, a really powerful study aid for a lot of people, in addition to good old-fashioned coffee, which helps with studying as well, of course. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You got it. All right, Aiden, what's up?
Hey, Dave, how you doing? We actually met at Sophia Health Institute a couple summers ago in the IV room.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, it was a fun time. A while back. I've been in this world for about 10 years now. I was diagnosed with chronic illness in first grade, and I am currently 3 months out from IVIG. And I've been having some weird weight gain issues. So I do, most of the time I'm kind of at an OMAD every other day and doing 16 to 18 hour my off day from OMAD and sprinkling in a 48 hour every so often. But I'm having a really hard time maintaining weight.
As in keeping it on? Or
spiking up and down.
Well, it sounds to me like you have a health issue, which is a physiological stressor, and you're doing a pretty aggressive fasting regimen. You sound like a classic over faster without having more facts about the specific health things there. So you might want to.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I test normally. Like, I basically they basically said what we did is kind of like we're kind of done, and we're not done. You're never done. We have to maintain, but a lot of the fasting stuff was brought on to help maintain it more. But I'm just wondering if you think maybe, do you think the variability in the types of fast I'm doing affects stuff at all?
I think the variability is probably good. Fasting the same way every day is probably not a good idea for most people.
Yeah.
The next tool for you, Aiden, is probably one of these. I'm showing it off on Instagram. This is a levels continuous glucose monitor tracker.
Yeah, I've started with them. I'm working on it. It's a hot mess, I must say.
Yeah, so I think your cortisol is going to be too high, and probably have some circadian problems from all the fasting or just the other stuff to work on.
Gotcha.
If you guys are interested, levels.link/Dave is a code because I'm an investor and early advisor. This is a consumer blood glucose monitoring. It's the single biggest thing that'll tell you what your last meal did to you. And that link will put you at the front of the line. There's 100,000 people in line to get them. So if you want to shortcut that, levels.link/Dave, which is kind of cool.
Oh, sorry, Dave.
All right, what's up? One more, Aiden, and then I'm going to go to Suzanne.
Real quick, so I'm on track to do osteopathy school, and I'm just wondering what you think the next generation of doctors are specifically going to need to be working on in terms of furthering the world that we know that Western medicine is kind of not totally there for.
The next generation of doctors is going to have to face the fact that AI is better at diagnostics than they are. So what you actually need to work on is partnering with patients. You need to work on being a coach, on being able to get people to do what we know will work. Because for years, doctors relied on, I have the white lab coat, I am the authority figure, and thou shalt do what I say. And there was an uneven power dynamic. And that shifted because you can go into your neck doctor's appointment and you can be like, hey, I know more than you about my weird condition. And the good doctor's like, oh my God, that's awesome, let's dig, right? And then the doctors who are too stressed because of the health insurance plans and all that, they're like, what do you want, right? So you gotta be the kind of doctor with the kind of practice that lets you partner with your patients and work with them, which is exceptionally cool. It's a different skill, and it's not one they teach. Bedside manner is not something that you typically learn in medical school. You get a little bit on rotation at the end. My wife's a medical doctor trained at this Karolinska Institute in Sweden, and we talk a lot about this. And many of my dear friends are doctors, and so learning how to work with patients is really important. All right, actually, before we go to Suzanne, I'm going to take a question here. Someone on Instagram was saying, hey, what about all the religions that require a vegan diet? To be clear, the only religion that requires a vegan diet is radical animal rights, like terrorist style stuff. All the other religions out there are vegetarian. There's none that I know of that are purely vegan. So most of them will allow you things like butter from grass-fed cows. And you can eat a zero animal cruelty diet that is bulletproof, as long as you're including grass-fed butter, probably egg yolks, and you can eat cruelty-free and soil regenerative meat that has a very, very low deaths per calorie, but you have to buy from a local farmer who cares for their animals properly. And this is really important. That meat is different than Snap Into a Slim Jim. Like, they're not in the same universe, even though studies are like, well, red and processed meats, that's like saying, fish and bicycles. Like, why did you cluster those together? Because they're not the same thing. All right. Suzanne, you had a question.
Hey, Dave. So nice to meet you on here. I've been a huge fan of your work for quite some time. I actually started the ketogenic diet in 2015 and lost 120 pounds, and it just completely changed my life.
Look at you. Your photo looks amazing. You would have no idea. Kind of just like me, no one believes I weigh 300 pounds. I have to lift up my shirt and show off my stretch marks, right?
Yeah,
so congratulations.
I was so inspired with your story. Like, that's why I'm so excited to meet you today. I actually I was actually an ultrasound tech before, and funny, like after dieting my whole life, never really learned about nutrition until I started doing keto. So I'm just like a huge fan of your work, and actually went on to write a book called Simply Keto. And now this is pretty much what I do and talk about and help people all the time. So super, super cool to meet you today. But I had two questions. One is, I think coming from the weight loss world, how do we do fasting and also be mindful of like going into disordered eating?
This is such a powerful question. Disordered eating is when you feel like you failed or you've done something that causes guilt or shame when you're eating. And perfectionism is a disease that goes far beyond health. Like, oh my God, should I have done something better in that meeting? Oh, why is he or she not texting me back? And there's all sorts of like, what did I do wrong? And this is, it's a form of anxiety disorder, and you can be anxious about your food. And when you're at a healthy thing, you go, you know what? I have learned through the process of experimentation, calm, curious experimentation. If I do this, I have less energy and I get bloated and I don't feel good and I get gas or whatever the heck it is. And if I do this, it's actually compatible with my biology and I feel really good. So because I love myself, I am going to choose to eat the right foods at the right time that work for my biology. And I'm going to honor myself with that. And I'm not going to feel a sense of loss when I don't get to eat the ice cream that I know messes me up for 2 days. But I also have the freedom to say it's worth it right now to feel like crap for 2 days because I want the ice cream, and to eat it and enjoy it and do it with friends. And that's when you have zero eating disorders. But to say I'm willing to take the hit for the pleasure, that is an adult behavior. To say I can't ever take the hit, that is a helpless perspective. And to say I'm going to pretend like there is no hit even though things aren't working right now, that's also not an adult perspective. And that's how we get to be in the middle.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think it was definitely something that I had to work on developing, because it was interesting, when you're really trying to lose weight and get healthier, like you have to be so mindful of trading one obsession for the other. Like I just got so focused that, I almost kind of look back and see like, wow, I just got absolutely obsessed with then trying to lose weight. And then, you romanticize what life is going to be like after that. But then really you get to focus on like all the health benefits and how much better you feel. And then that becomes like the new thing that really takes over. And that's what I'm super passionate about. So that's awesome. I totally feel the same way.
I love that. It's really about eating so you have tons of energy and your brain works, and the weight will come off. And if you eat for the weight to come off and you feel like crap all the time, you might be a fitness model, male or female. Everyone I've ever talked to who's a fitness model is like, I never looked so good and felt so bad, right? And then they recover biologically afterwards, right?
Yeah, for sure. The last thing I wanted to ask you is, how do you feel about palm oil? I know that there's some different things about like sustainable palm oil, and then there's kind of some controversy of whether that's actually a legitimate thing or not. But how do you feel about it on both an environmental and the health aspect?
About 6 or 7 years ago, as I was making MCT oil into the major category it is today, I sat down and I looked at this and said, we're moving a lot. The majority of MCT oil you can buy is made out of palm oil, and it kills orangutans. Even the sustainable stuff, I have serious questions about it. And they're burning down virgin rainforest with healthy soil and healthy ecosystems in order to grow more palm. Coconut oil doesn't do that. So I got in a big fight with my suppliers. I made them sort out the coconut oil from the palm oil. They said they couldn't do it, and I held the line. They sorted out the coconut oil, and I use 100% coconut oil for Bulletproof. And it raised my cost by 20%, and I didn't raise the cost of my product on the shelf because I wanted it to be accessible. And so I believe that coconut-sourced MCTs are the way to go, and that palm oil is not particularly good for the planet. There's actually a big thing happening right now in Canada. where all the farmers, and probably in the US too, they started putting palm oil or palm residue into cow feed. It's like, look, the cows make more butter, but then the butter doesn't spread because it's full of palmitic acid, which doesn't belong in butter. So that's why grass-fed butter is a really good thing to do. And that's why I would say go with coconut instead of palm. There's also some studies that show palm does a better job of escorting lipopolysaccharide across the gut than many other fats. That said, the one saturated fat your body manufactures most is called palmitic acid. So your body can make that saturated fat on board. Palmitic acid is necessary for health. I just don't know that you want to eat tons of palm oil.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And so great to meet you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And congrats, 120 pounds. It's so cool. All right.
Thank you.
Aaron, you got a question. I'm looking through Instagram to see if there's some more questions here. All right. Go for it, Aaron.
Thank you so much, Dave. Really appreciate it. My question was, upgrading your brain and getting your body working and taking the right supplements. I've been taking a whole bunch of different ones that you've recommended, but, it does get expensive sometimes. So I was wondering if you could maybe recommend one or two supplements that you would maybe let everyone know what the one or two best supplements would be for gut health and for mental clarity and mental performance.
Gut health and mental clarity, mental performance. This is a really important question. So I'm to the point where I'm going to live to at least 180 years old. And there's a whole book about that. That number is real. I believe it's actually conservative. So I also have a history of autoimmunity, obesity, high risk of stroke and heart attack, cognitive dysfunction, mold toxicity, Lyme disease, and prediabetes. And I'm 6'4". So I take 150 supplements a day, but I'm on a very tuned aggressive regimen, and you do not need to do that to live longer and have more energy and things like that. So I'm willing to do the extremes, mostly to see if it works, right? And because I really like how my brain works, and my brain has the average response time of a 20-year-old instead of a 48-year-old. It's called P300D, and it's kind of cool, right? Like, things work. So number one cognitive function thing you could do, that's a supplement. It depends if you're looking for a single supplement or a stack. What I think you could do there is, I make one called Smart Mode for Bulletproof, which is from memory, about 10 different plant compounds that have good studies on supporting the brain, including a really interesting tea extract called teacrine that is energizing but doesn't have resistance issues like caffeine does. Caffeine doesn't work. If you take the same dose every day, on the 10th day, the dose is less effective than the first time you have caffeine. Teacrine doesn't do that. And it's got a bunch of other things that all have clinicals backing them. So that's a good one that's reasonably affordable. There's also something called CDP choline, which works really, really well for people. And there is some of that in Smart Mode, but CDP choline has lots and lots of studies just for increasing levels of acetylcholine. And from there's so many different cognitive enhancing supplements, many of which stack well. Another ingredient I like is Bacopa monnieri, which has good studies. There's a lot of big pharma hate against ginkgo, which does increase blood flow in the brain, which is particularly cool. Another one, a periwinkle extract called vinpocetine, is also particularly effective. So those would be some areas to look there. And also, really, if you're not on vitamin A, D, and K, you should take those first because those will help cognitive function, not as much, but those are just baseline supplements. You need to be on that. And then for gut health, the most surprising thing is probably the prebiotic fiber I talk about in Fast This Way. The one I make for Bulletproof is called Inner Fuel. It's got 3 different clinically studied, basically plant saps. And what these do is they feed the good gut bacteria. I was able to quadruple the number of gut bacteria, which is a marker of being younger, in about, I think it was 3 to 6 months of taking that every day. You can take it during a fast as long as you're not fasting to change your gut bacteria like a longer water fast would. But if you're doing intermittent fasting, it won't change your mTOR or your insulin levels. So that would be one that's widely available, not terribly expensive. And just by feeding more of the good guys, that can shift stuff in the gut quite a lot.
Great. Could you just repeat the name of that last supplement again?
Inner Fuel by Bulletproof. And the idea is the gut bacteria, you can't digest that fiber. So the gut bacteria eat it. They turn it into butyric acid, which is a short chain fatty acid that's pro-ketogenic and stops inflammation in the gut and in the brain.
Got you. Thank you so much.
Cool. All right.
I'm Anaracetam, I take Bacopa. I've got all like the life cycle, mushroom as well. But doing it all is
the life cycle lion's
mane.
mane.
I really appreciate your recommendations.
You got it. That's a good one you're taking. Life cycle lion's mane is the only lion's mane I've been able to find, the liquid, that really has a noticeable BDNF effect. I get a lot more REM sleep when I take that, and the mushroom powders that are commonly sold don't seem to do anything, as far as I can tell. There's a lot of roots and mycelium in there that aren't doing a lot. So that's a really strong choice. LIFECYKEL for people listening. All right,
yeah,
Phil.
I totally agree. I just wanted to add there, I took lion's mane powder from other places, and since I've been taking life cycle, like I never could remember my dreams. I'd wake up and I'd never dream, and now after taking lion's mane, I'm getting good quality sleep and I can remember my dreams, and it's it is a game changer with the life cycle products.
Beautiful. So you see the same results I do from life cycle. Mushrooms are a really delicate thing. In order to get the active compounds, you need to use alcohol extraction and hot water extraction, and eating the powder, it seems kind of like a fantasy. So mixing, I also used to mix mushroom powder at the Bulletproof Coffee shop years ago. It makes coffee taste bad, and it doesn't appear to do anything health-wise. It's one of those things like, I wish it works, so I'll say that it works, then you do it. All right, Phil, you got a question.
Yes, thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate you opening this room up tonight. And I appreciate what you have done to change the world view of wellness and all that you do to help people live a more healthy life. I have a question in relation to brain tracking, performance tracking. I did a case study in Nashville a year or so ago using the Wavi Med EEG performance tracking device, and I know I had seen a video of you, having to test some of that device a while back.
Yep.
So I'm wondering what your opinion of the Wavi Med is, or if you have used any other kind of performance tracking devices that you're a fan of.
Sure.
Phil Carson, I'm done speaking. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. At my 40 Years of Zen neuroscience company, we do 5-day intensive things with entrepreneurs and actors and sports people and all. So it's like really high-end neurofeedback with on-site neuroscientists and facilitators and chefs and all this. So it's like the biggest brain upgrade I know how to do. So I've got a lot of knowledge about that. The gold standard is a quantitative EEG or a QEEG, and we do that on day one. And this is a really powerful thing to do for really seeing what's going on in the brain. But what the Wavi that you mentioned does, and many other neurofeedback systems have an ability to do this, is they're measuring P300D. And this is how quickly does the brain respond to auditory and visual cues before you can think about them. So this is a very basic, like, how's the brain doing? It's not about what you're thinking about. It's not about anxiety. It's literally when you saw it, when did you know that you saw it? When did your brain know you saw it before you could even think about it? And that was the score where I was saying earlier, I have the average response time of a 20-year-old. And it's because I took care of my brain. And keep in mind, when I did the Daniel Amen, Dr. Amen brain scan years ago, they said, Dave, inside your brain is total chaos. Don't know how you're standing here in front of me even talking. Like, your brain looks like you live under a bridge and you're on drugs. And it was chemically induced brain damage from toxic mold. So I've come back from where I wouldn't trust myself in my mid-20s because my brain was broken. And I've had multiple TBIs as well, to having a very young brain. My hippocampal volume is 87th percentile, things like that. So I do think P300D as a regular checkup is really cool, but I think a quantitative EEG is great. And then for feedback, you don't use the Wavi or P300 or Qs for feedback. Those are other systems, and those are different ones that we use at 40 Years Zen. We actually developed our own in-house to be able to do some advanced kind of esoteric states. All right, Bryson, let's do a couple more questions here.
Hey, Dave.
Hey.
What's going on?
Not a lot. Just having fun here on Clubhouse and Instagram at the same time. By the way, if you're on Instagram, if you go onto Clubhouse, I'm at Asprey. You can follow me there. If you're on Clubhouse, I'm dave.asprey on Instagram. But I'm taking questions here because if I let people on video on Instagram Live, they keep showing me pieces of their anatomy that I can't unsee. So I can take questions here, but we can all hear each other. So it all works out this way.
Oh, yeah, it's probably better going off without that anyway. You don't need that. I've got a question.
Sure.
So I've kind of got my microbiome figured out, I think. I kind of want to know what the next steps are in kind of optimizing my cellular energy.
Oh, man. You're speaking to someone who cares a lot about that. So if your microbiome's broken, your cellular energy will be somewhat broken. You probably will have all sorts of weird toxins like lipopolysaccharide, and you'll have systemic inflammation. So you got to get that fixed. But then when you're talking about hacking mitochondria directly, there's various things you can do that make cell membranes work better. And the biggest thing you could do, surprisingly, is eat at least 50% of your calories from saturated fat, of your fat calories from saturated fat, and most of the rest monounsaturated. Ditch the omega-6s. The half-life of oil in your body is about 680 days, according to an older but very good study. So this means if you go for a couple years doing the stuff I talk about in the Bulletproof diet and eating grass-fed and minimizing seed oils or just not eating them at all, you actually can restructure the membrane of your mitochondria to work better. But in the meantime, there's a couple, maybe three things I'm going to point out that really help. The first one is brain octane, or the C8 MCT I make for Bulletproof. Having ketones present, your mitochondria can burn ketones and get more energy out of those than they can from burning glucose. Even if you eat donuts, you can pour MCT on them and you'll have some ketones present, enough that you feel a difference, and that can help mitochondrial function. Ketones are also anti-inflammatory in and of themselves. And MCT oil is the most common source of exogenous ketones that are out there. There's other things like salts and esters that have various stresses on organ systems, so I'm not a fan for a whole variety of reasons I'm not going to get into on this call for those two structures. Although I could have launched those as products at Bulletproof. I didn't, because I didn't think it was the right thing to do. The other two things that I'm going to shout out to, and guys, I'm not trying to sell my own supplements. It won't change my life if you do or don't buy them, but I'm going to talk about stuff that I know works because I formulated it. And I'm going to drop my phone. Hopefully you guys are still there. Good. One of them is called Keto Prime. And there's a pump in your mitochondria. It's like a little rotary engine sort of. And it needs to be primed with something called ketosuccinate. Keto Prime is ketosuccinate. And it allows the cells to fully utilize blood glucose or ketones. And you suck on a couple of those, you feel really good. And this is one of my favorite supplements forever. The other one that's a serious game changer is called Unfair Advantage. It's a Bulletproof supplement. And Unfair Advantage is a liposomal form of something called active PQQ with a little bit of CoQ10 for absorption. You put it under your tongue, and people feel that, like within 5-10 minutes, like, whoa, what just happened? And those are both directly modifying mitochondrial performance. So if you were to have, say, a little bit of Bulletproof coffee, suck on a couple of Keto Prime and take an Unfair Advantage, you're going to be like on another planet because you're finally making energy the way your cells are capable of when they have all that stuff. And guys, I apologize. I'm not trying to sell my stuff here. I'm just going to talk about what works. If you don't like it that I plug the stuff that I care enough to make, you probably need to get a therapist. So I'm not talking to you specifically, Bryson, but somebody's like, how dare you talk about the stuff you make? I'm like, I don't know. That's what I do. So hope that helped.
Yeah. If it works, it works. No shame in plugging your own stuff if you know it works, right?
There you go.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You got it. Dr. Wowman.
Hi, Dave. So happy to see you here.
I'm happy to see you here. What's up?
I have two questions. So the first one would be, where's Bulletproof going? What's the future of it? We've missed a couple of, live events, and we kind of miss you around here as well. So I know there's one coming in September.
Yep.
When can we have a live one? And what is the future of Bulletproof? What are you going to introduce to us next? I have a lot of secrets, but can we find out anything before?
So the Biohacking Conference is something that I've run for 8 years, and it's been part of creating the field of biohacking. With COVID, about 2 years ago, we had to cancel the conference with 4 weeks' notice, which is very, very tough for live events companies. Plus, in my same company there, it's separate from Bulletproof Coffee, the main company. There's Upgrade Labs, and there's the Bulletproof Cafe. So between having a gym, having a cafe, and having live events all shut down by COVID all at the same time, that company became insolvent, but I didn't want to let people down for the conference. So I bankrupted the company because there was no way for it to pay its leases with all of it. There were 50 employees and there were thousands of people with tickets. I took the company out of bankruptcy, reinvested a ton of my own money in it in order to save the conference and to do what I said I was going to do for the ticket holders. So I took a hit personally, but I thought it was the right thing to do. And so that is why we're having a conference in September, a live conference in LA. You guys go to biohackingconference.com, and that's where the info is for that. We put on what most people are saying is the best virtual conference they've been to, which was a virtual biohacking conference about 6 months ago. There's another one coming in a couple months. That's at virtualbiohackingconference.com. So I'm focusing very heavily on building the community. If you go to ourupgradecollective.com, I have committed to teaching every one of my books, like full-on lectures, large community, thousands of people all studying and going through it at the same time. So I realize writing books is one thing, but making it so people can absorb the information, that's my job this year. So that's ourupgradecollective.com. I'm also opening a Bulletproof, well, it's now called an Upgrade Cafe up here, just to give Bulletproof some space. In Victoria, BC, I'm opening an Upgrade Labs. And I'm opening at 40 Years of Zen, all at the same location in downtown Victoria, BC. Also, we are about to announce that you can franchise Upgrade Labs. If you go to upgradelabs.com/franchise, if you have experience or you want to have a business doing that, this is a way to bring biohacking to the masses, where we'll be able to have an Upgrade Labs with all the biohacking gear. Of course, there's Bulletproof Coffee, stuff like that. Having that all available in your town is of huge vision for me. So that's where I'm focusing. I've got a CEO in place for the main company, Bulletproof, who's been there for 18 months. And we're growing that, making it more accessible. You can now buy Bulletproof in 2,000 7-Elevens, which to me, one of my dreams when I started the company was, hey, I wish I could go to 7-Eleven and buy something I wanted to eat or drink other than water. You can. And we were the first company when they trialed health foods. They trialed in 200 stores. We were the first ones with like, this is so working. So they put us in a couple thousand stores. And to me, that's just like, I want Bulletproof in food deserts. So I'm working hard on that. You've seen the new cold brew coffee in cans. Our focus groups, everyone who's tried it, says that this is, that they love it. The people who like the old stuff, but it tests very well and it's very good. I really like it. The chocolate dipped collagen bars just came out. We have a new line of chocolates that we can now ship year round. So I'm working hard on just continuing to make the world's best stuff. And I'm spending time with other companies like True Dark and all. So bottom line is I would not let the Bulletproof, the biohacking community down. So that's what I'm working on.
That's amazing. Thank you. And we truly do miss you. And it's very wonderful to see you giving back this way.
Oh, thank you.
My actual question is, I did stem cells. I was very, thanks to you, I did stem cells and I did my own stem cells.
Yep.
Now the thing is that I'm not happy with it. What do I do?
You're not happy with your own stem cells? Why are you not happy?
I'm not.
What happened? What's not good about them?
They did not dissolve, but they didn't do what they were supposed to do. It's only been 3 months, so should I wait longer or what should I...
I would definitely talk. Who did your stem cells for you? Are you willing to talk about that?
There is a doctor. There's this doctor that my current doctor. It's in California. It was not. For 3 years, he was able to after. So in the beginning, I got him to do NAD and like all the good stuff. As I read your books, I let him know. So he was able to do it. And it's been 3 months. And maybe that's a concern.
Most people feel stem cells within the first couple of weeks, and then the long-term regeneration happens over the next year. So, I mean, it's probably not appropriate for me to comment on, specific procedures and stuff because I have no idea what he did. I've had really good results, and I've taken my parents to see Dr. Harry Adelson at Docere, Docere Medical, and he has about 20 years of experience. I wrote about him in Superhuman as well, where he does a mix of fat-derived and bone marrow-derived cells. So there's many different techniques that you can use. But if you're not happy with how it's going, I would sit down with your doctor and just say, I don't think it did much. Did we get the right growth factors? Can we redo it with exosomes? And really check in with them. And there are some people who are non-responders to their fat cells who do respond well when they get bone marrow and fat together.
Okay, that's actually great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate it. And your last book, Fast This Way, amazing. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, Ross, I'm going to take your question next, but I have a question from Instagram from LexiLex about black seed and black cumin seed oil. This is actually got a little bit of omega-6 in it, but it's well known in the Muslim world in the Middle East. You can buy it almost everywhere. It's a really effective antihistamine. So you can take it if you have a histamine sensitivity. It's anti-inflammatory. So yeah, black cumin is one of those neat things, also known as black seed oil in the US. It's a good supplement. All right, Ross, what's up, man?
Hey, Dave. So I just got the results of my blood work, had a call today with my doctor to review it. Everything's good, but the disappointing news is that my mitochondria are not functioning as good as they can be. And so he recommended some supplements for me, and I just wanted to kind of roll through really quickly a few of them with you and just see if you could recommend the absolute best brands to purchase so I can get my levels where they need to be.
What a great question. But before we go there, it's very hard to get a lab test of mitochondrial function. What test did he run? Do you know?
Yeah, we did it was from Genova Diagnostics.
Okay.
I always get the full ion panel, so we tested, all the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids. And he was saying that, all my levels are in a good range, but some that are in a range that can use improvement are just my B vitamins. All my B vitamins are low.
Oh, okay.
PQQ and CoQ10 he recommended. He also recommended NRF2. And was just wondering, I know probably for some of them, there's some bulletproof supplements that would be really good, but I just wanted to check in with you on the brands that you would recommend so I know I'm getting the best of the best.
I don't think you can take NRF2 directly as a supplement. At least not that I've seen anywhere. It's a protein, but it's more, I don't think you can buy it. At least I haven't seen it anywhere. You can probably raise NRF2. In fact, I think intermittent fasting raises NRF2 from the top of my head. But the other ones, PQQ doesn't absorb orally very well at all because as soon as it hits stomach acid, it precipitates out and it's like sand or gravel and you just poop it out. So the liposomal form that's an unfair advantage is very noticeably effective for most people. So I would highly recommend that one, but that's not going to be enough CoQ10 for you because you probably want to do what I do. I do 300 milligrams of CoQ10 a day. Now, brands of CoQ10 don't really matter that much. You don't want some unknown kind of street brand, but if you go for any of the mainstream brands of CoQ10, it all comes from the same places. So ubiquinol is probably the right form. And I would be doing a couple of those with some meal or with Bulletproof Coffee. So you don't have to be too brand religious about CoQ10 anymore. In the very early days, it was different.
What are your thoughts on MitoQ? Is it worth the money?
MitoQ is another supplement. MitoQ seems to work very well topically. If you rub it in, they make a serum that works pretty well. But I have been unable to detect a difference in how I feel on MitoQ, even if I take like 20 of the capsules a day. Generally, if you take a mitochondrial stimulator and your mitochondria aren't working well and you take a handful of it, you should at least feel a kick in the pants. So I took, when it first came out, I took MitoQ years ago and I just never felt it. It may work really well. I've heard a few people say it works great for them. Probably more important for mitochondrial function, though, is looking at something like True Niagen, which is the most clinically backed form of NAD, a precursor, which is NR. You can also I take NR and NMN. I take True Niagen. I also take nicotinamide mononucleotide, which is also a really important thing to do. And if your B vitamins are low, everyone hearing this should understand, you can get activated B vitamins, which is a methylated form. Most B vitamins sold today are cheaper, but they aren't methylated, and a lot of people have a hard time converting B vitamins to activate them in the body. So active vitamins methylated, so you get P5P instead of B6. You get folate instead of folic acid and things like that. And the good news about activated B vitamins is they're much less likely to make you want to throw up, and you don't get that nasty B vitamin taste that you're probably used to with your B vitamins.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Dave.
You got it, Ross. All right, let's see some quick ones from Mary, Tiffany, and then I think I'm going to end this because I got to go have dinner with the kids before the sun goes down because I don't eat after the sun goes down. Oh, wait, I already ate today. I'm not eating dinner, but I'm going to hang out with them while they eat. All right, Mary, what's up?
Hi, thank you so much for doing this.
You got it.
I wanted to ask you a question in relating to TBI. My partner suffered a traumatic brain injury about 20 years ago, and I just recently found out this information from him. And I've been helping him clean up his diet, and we're going to try to remove some toxicities like his mercury fillings and whatnot. But in the meantime, I'm wondering if you can give any advice for something he can do or take, or who I should be trying to get help from to help him recover. I have heard that there's really good research showing that even really old brain injuries can be healed even years later, decades later. So I'm hopeful. But I was wondering what you might suggest I look into.
Mary, first, thanks for sticking with him and helping him. When people have a brain injury, it affects relationships in a major way. You do not have the ability to regulate your emotions properly. And an example, I took a titanium knee to the head at high speed at Burning Man a few years ago. And I came back, I couldn't play Go Fish with my kids. I was swearing like a sailor. I sent a super angry email to Tim Ferriss for nothing he did, just because I was pretty much batshit crazy. And fortunately, I was able to recover. And the number one thing, no matter when you had a brain injury, is hyperbaric oxygen. And if you listen to the podcast I did with Dr. Harch, Harch, just Google Bulletproof Radio Harch. He talks about how 40 sessions of a home hyperbaric session, relatively closely spaced, 40 sessions in 60 days, or even in 40 days, turns your brain back on. And my wife had an early childhood brain injury, a really severe one. And she did 40 sessions in hyperbaric, and oh my God, it was like a different brain. So it's really, really important. You can buy a hyperbaric chamber for around $5,000, finish using it, and then you can sell it for about $4,000. It's very cost effective to do it that way. And if it's within reason, go see Dr. Daniel Amen. I'm seeing some posts from Gabby on Instagram about that. Dr. Amen can quantify what the brain injury is. I've had my brain scanned as well, and tell you exactly how to activate that part of the brain. There's also a recent podcast with Lisa Wimberger about neurosculpting that could be really effective for you. But there's a lot of hope, and getting rid of the toxins, getting the metabolism working, all of those are good things, but I don't think anything trumps hyperbaric. After hyperbaric, seeing a very experienced neurofeedback practitioner, there is no reason that someone with a brain injury has to walk around carrying that weight. It is a heavy weight, and it affects everyone around them as well. It's an epidemic in the US. So you're on the right path.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yes, I will. I definitely know it's not his fault. So
yeah,
I appreciate all of your. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Tiffany, you're the last one.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be last. I appreciate everything that you do. Huge fan. And I cannot wait for your next either virtual or in-person live event.
It's coming.
My question is, last time on your clubhouse room that you did, you quickly mentioned that you're still taking a little bit of thyroid hormone. I am as well. I was taking WP thyroid, and then I switched to Nature Thyroid, and the company that makes both, they stopped making them, and it's been a long time. I am cutting the tiny dosage that I'm already taking, and I'm down to my last few. Do you have a recommendation for a replacement, or do I need to compound, or what are you doing?
Tiffany, if you have a thyroid condition and you're cutting your thyroid, you're not going to feel it at first, but it increases your risk of all kinds of diseases to be low thyroid, and you won't feel it. So I went through a period about 4 years ago where I took some SARMs, and I wrote about this. I put on 29 pounds of muscle in 6 weeks without changing my workout or my protein intake. It was ridiculous. Like, I had to buy new shirts, and I wrote about this in Superhuman. But I also was like, I was getting symptoms of too much thyroid. Like, I was getting rapid heartbeat. So I cut my thyroid. I'm like, yeah, I fixed my thyroid, but I cut it too much, right? And you don't see it for about 3 months. And I was like, why is my hair getting dry? And I actually lost some hair as a result of it. And then it actually affects cardiac rhythms as well. So don't go crazy on cutting your thyroid. Get your thyroid tested, and you have to titrate off very slowly. But honestly, thyroid's an anti-aging hormone, and you'll put more stress on your thyroid. So I would say talk to your doctor and say you want a compounded natural thyroid. You can still get it. WP thyroid and Nature Thyroid were the best ones. Armor Thyroid is probably still available. I don't actually know what brand I have because it comes in a prescription bottle from my local compounding pharmacy, but it looks the same as Nature Thyroid and it works the same. But I think thyroid is one of the most underappreciated aging hormones and performance enhancing substances. Many, many people listening to this are subclinically low on thyroid. The doctor's like, oh, you're within ranges. You're just the edge of the range. Like, yeah, but I'm tired and I can't lose weight. Well, gee, maybe you want to help your thyroid out a little bit. So I look at hormone replacement like estrogen or progesterone or testosterone and thyroid all in the same family. And I believe that most people over age 50 like their life and they perform better and live longer if they're taking like an eighth of a grain. So I'm hoping that this enters the world of functional medicine because it's a performance enhancing substance that really improves quality of life.
Super quick follow-up question. Do you ever take a second, even smaller dose in the afternoon?
Yeah, I actually take my thyroid. I split it, and guys, there's tons of people listening on thyroid. If you're not on this, if you have never had your thyroid, it's called an advanced thyroid panel. Get it done, especially if you've been over fasting or over keto. It's a major thing where people have issues they don't know about. You can't lose weight no matter what you do. Thyroid, depressed, anxious, can't sleep. Thyroid. I mean, it's life changing when you figure that out. So what works best for me is I do half of it in the morning on an empty stomach when I first wake up, and I do half at bedtime. And that works really well. I've experimented with the afternoon, but that works well for sleep. The number of people who have poor sleep because of low thyroid is astounding. It's an underappreciated thing there. So if any of those things are going on, you can't just get a thyroid panel at the doctor because they just get something called TSH, which is how much is the body yelling for thyroid hormone. An advanced panel tells you, did the body answer the yell? And how did it answer? And that gives you a complete picture of the thing that controls your energy thermostat. It's a really big deal.
Thank you so much. It's amazing how much so many traditional doctors have no idea how important this is in my life. As soon as I turned 40 is when I started investigating what the heck's happening to me, and just taking half a grain of thyroid hormone a day has completely changed everything in my life. And now it's just frustrating because I can't get the medication that I finally figured out works for me. It's been a 4.5-year battle, but I really appreciate your time so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. You can find another brand that's going to work for you. And this is a thing, man, talking about anxiety and depression is sometimes it's just thyroid. In fact, a lot of the time it's just thyroid. And they'll look at your levels, your TSH is 1.5 or 2. It's within range. I'm like, I want my TSH to be 1 or less. And when you do that, this is the energy. If your thyroid is not optimized, you simply won't make enough energy in your cells. And everything in life is harder. You make enough energy, everything in life is easier. All right, guys, this is my first time ever doing a Clubhouse and Instagram live together. I think it's worked really, really well. If you like this, like it on Instagram. If you guys follow me on Instagram, and if you're on Clubhouse, share this with, follow me and all that kind of stuff you're supposed to do. And if you're on Instagram and on Clubhouse, and you didn't already do it, I'm at Asprey on Clubhouse, and I'm dave.asprey on Instagram. Guys, I'll be doing some more of these. And maybe the last thing just to share with you, I'm looking at starting to do Bulletproof Radio where I can actually put it up on Clubhouse as I'm interviewing. But no one's done that to the point where at the end of it, I'd have some call in, but you'd mostly be listening instead of interacting until the very end. But I'm going to be experimenting with that. So make sure you follow me, and I'll hopefully get a club set up here as well for that. So you'll be able to hear it when I record it, probably a week or two before it hits the actual iTunes. On that note, I'll see you guys later. Thank you, Instagram. Thank you, Clubhouse. Peace.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Bye.